Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a new custom mail-in tournament. Welcome to day number 1. This is bound to be a good one. Let's welcome the first group of racers that sent in vehicles for this tournament. We have Chase Family from Chase Family Racing, J-Bo from Dog Squad Racing, Mr. Dark from Dubious Diecast, and Big Mike from NZ Racing. These are the 4 that'll kick this tournament off. Let's see how well each of them do. And here we go, the tournament has officially begun. Already, J-Bo is starting to fall behind. Mr. Dark is pushing NZ forward, trying to get the inside lane. So far, he turns out to be successful and is quickly closing the gap between him and NZ. They go around the next turn. Here comes Mr. Dark trying to close that gap, trying to find his way around NZ. And he is successful. And now he has the lead and he's quickly pulling away. NZ seeing this happen, he is trying to catch back up. Around that turn into the straightaway, Mr. Dark bounces off the walls a little bit, but he manages to get the win despite NZ closing in on him. And now 17:07 is the time to beat. And despite trailing for most of that race, J-Bo almost grabbed third. And Mr. Dark slid sideways for just a little bit, but quickly straightened himself out. So he will grab the first win, and is the one racer out of this group that can hopefully stay undefeated. And now into heat number 2, the racers will be rotated, I believe. And the race begins, and Mr. Dark right out the gate already has a decent sized lead in front of the pack. Chase Family's trying to push NZ forward now, and it doesn't seem to do much as Dark stays quite a ways ahead. Going around the turn, NZ is quickly falling behind. And Mr. Dark is leaving everybody in the dust as he heads towards the last turn before the straightaway. Loving the design on that vehicle, by the way. In fact, all of them. And in fact, Mr. Dark does get the second straight win. He does end up on his back after crossing the finish line, but he gets an even faster time now of 15.58. J-Bo unfortunately finishes in 4th yet again. That's going to make it a lot harder to move on from this point forward. He is making a valiant effort in that last stretch before the finish, but he's got to do that throughout the entire race. So now Mr. Dark just needs one more win to automatically move on to the grand finals. Let's see if he can pull it off. He starts off in the front yet again, and he takes full advantage of it as he takes off, leaving the other 3 to fight for second. And now J-Bo is actually in second right now. The question is, will he be able to maintain that position and possibly catch up to Dark, who so far has been doing really well? It actually looks like he's going a little bit slower this time around. Maybe the other 3 will be able to catch up as a result. Meanwhile, J-Bo is staying in front of NZ. This could be the break he needs in order to keep his hopes alive to progress in this tournament. Meanwhile, Mr. Dark does get the 3rd consecutive win, and he's already off to the finals in today's video. I think I might have said grand finals earlier. That's my apologies. But the top 2 will actually be moving on to today's finals. So even if you don't get the highest points, you still have a shot. But J-Bo did manage to finish in second that time. If he can do that again, he might be able to move on depending on how the other racers do. The chances are small, but they're not impossible. It would obviously be even better if he finished in first. Let's see if he can pull that off. Right now, he's actually being pushed forward by Dark, but he does have the outside lane. But that doesn't matter. J-Bo is now in the lead. This could be exactly what the doctor ordered, as it were. But just because he's in first doesn't mean he'll keep it, and here comes Dark overtaking him. Will J-Bo be able to make up the ground he just lost? It doesn't look like he will, because Dark is once again leaving everybody behind, so much so that everyone is off camera. And Mr. Dark stays undefeated in this particular group. I believe he will also move on to the finals today with the fastest time so far. I believe it was a 15.88 if I remember right. But I don't think J-Bo will be moving on. No, he made a valiant effort, but unfortunately, he fell just short. But now for the second group, which has Uncle Elvis from Team Uncle Elvis, Lero from 409 Diecast Racing, Rico the Robot from Rico Robot Racing, and Big Mike from Hot Wheels Boys. Two of these people will move on to the finals to join the others that already made it. Let's see which ones will do so. Starting off, Uncle Elvis and Hot Wheels Boys are in the front of the pack. My apologies. But Uncle Elvis, despite having the outside lane, is the one to take the lead. Meanwhile, Lero, actually all three are staying relatively close behind him. This could change things up. Lero tried to find his way around. Uncle Elvis denied him. And Lero actually had his plan backfire, as now he is far behind the others. And Uncle Elvis has the lead, but here come Hot Wheels Boys and Rico. They're trying to catch him. Uncle Elvis actually spins sideways, and Hot Wheels Boys takes the first win. Lero had a great start, not so great a finish, but it looks like Rico had a slightly worse finish. Somehow ending up on his side, I can't tell. It looked like as he went around that last turn, he somehow had enough momentum shift on him to the point where he toppled over. That is definitely a dangerous result, but as long as he can keep racing, he will keep contending. I could probably have worded that better, but hey, moving on. Heat number 2, now Rico is looking to make up that ground, and so far he does have the lead out of the gate, and Lero is falling behind yet again. But he's fighting currently with Hot Wheels Boys and Uncle Elvis, who is pushing him forward, which he may be able to take advantage of. So far, is successful in doing so. Rico is trying to find any way to make up that ground for not finishing in the previous race. If he finishes in first, this could be exactly what he needs. Uncle Elvis is trying to catch him. I'm not sure it's going to be enough, though. And now Rico the Robot, I believe, will have a first-place finish. As long as he can keep that up, he will still have a shot to move on. But there won't be any undefeated racers out of this group. You look at that, almost catching up entirely after not finishing at all in the first race. And he starts off in the front lane yet again. But this time Lero is trying to give him a run for his money. Uncle Elvis is pushing Lero forward. So Rico will have some work to do, but he manages to squeeze in between them somehow. But now he's skidding sideways and he loses that speed, allowing Uncle Elvis to overtake him. And now Uncle Elvis is trying to do the same with Lero. So far, Lero is having none of that, and he's continuously blocking him from passing. They go into the last stretch. Lero is trying to hold on to that lead. He tries to do a nose block, but it doesn't work, as Uncle Elvis now has a first-place finish. Meanwhile, Rico finishes in third. Meanwhile, Hot Wheels Boys somehow loses all his speed and doesn't make it to the finish line. That was quite the battle for first place. Lero had it for the longest time, but his attempt at nose blocking did not work. If he did it slightly sooner, he might have been able to make it work, but unfortunately he waited just a split second too long, and Uncle Elvis pushed him out of the way, allowing him to get the win. Now the points have been tossed around quite a bit. Right now, Uncle Elvis has 11, Lero has 6, Rico has 7, and Hot Wheels Boys also has 7. Hot Wheels Boys and Rico have both finished in first, third, and didn't even finish once, respectively. So now it could be a matter of who will finish in front of the other. Right now, Rico is coming out of nowhere, taking up second. Will he be able to grab first? So far, there is a bit of a gap between the two, and Uncle Elvis does have the lead. But now he skids sideways, goes backwards. Here comes Rico. Will it be enough? No, it will not. But his wonderful second place finish may result in him still moving on despite that. It was definitely close. Rico definitely had a burst of speed. Oh, Rico did get the win. And he'll be moving on alongside Elvis, who will now take part in the finals, alongside Mr. Dark and NZ. Now here we go. Mr. Dark is trying to catch up quickly, like he usually does, and is now in second, right behind Uncle Elvis. And Uncle Elvis does have the lead, but here come Rico and Dark fighting for second place. Rico tried to hold on to it, but Mr. Dark was saying no way, that's not happening. And now he's quickly closing that gap between him and Elvis. As they go around the last turn, he is bumping the back of him. And Uncle Elvis executes a wonderful block. That is how you execute a great block, because not only, when you check out this replay, check this out. He not only blocked him in the front, but as he tried to navigate the other way, he blocked him with the back of his vehicle and kept first place as a result. So now Uncle Elvis is the one in first, but I also think this means no one out of today's races will be undefeated. I believe Dark still has the fastest overall time, but he will not move on to the grand finals if he does so with an undefeated streak. And now Rico the Robot is out in front, and this is a very close pack. And now Rico the Robot is actually causing a traffic jam with all the races as they go around that turn. This may have ended up working in his favor, because some of the other racers have lost some momentum, but Uncle Elvis is staying right on the back of him, pushing him forward, trying to find his way around, but ends up losing speed, and Rico the Robot takes first place. After we saw Uncle Elvis pulls off a wonderful nose and tail block, Rico the Robot does the same thing, causing everyone to pile up behind him, which ultimately worked in his favor. And now the points are overall spread out a little bit more evenly. But NZ definitely still has some work to do if he wants to keep his hopes alive of partaking in future parts of this tournament. Here comes Mr. Dark, already having the lead. Anytime he starts out in front, he shows how dangerous he can be. But Uncle Elvis already closes that gap, and now they're fighting for first. Mr. Dark is trying to keep going back and forth, trying to block him. So far, it proves to be successful and causes Uncle Elvis to lose some momentum. They go around the last turn. Here we go into the stretch. And Uncle Elvis almost was able to pass him, but ended up finishing in third. In fact, NZ gave him a bump draft of sorts, trying to go under him. A wonderful performance by Dark, but Uncle Elvis's attempts to pass him ended up causing him to lose a position instead of gain it. And now as we take a look at the overall points in this group, it is Uncle Elvis with 10. Mr. Dark also has 10. NZ only has 3, and Rico actually also has 10. Between Elvis, Dark, and Rico the Robot, they've all finished in first, second, and third. So it's just a matter of which two will finish in front of the others. And right now it looks to be in favor of Uncle Elvis and Dark. And remember, the top two will finish and move on. So whoever finishes in first, the person in second will still move on, and it will be Dark and Uncle Elvis. And I believe Dark finished with a new fast time of 15.47. So Mr. Dark may not have an undefeated streak, but he will be moving on alongside Uncle Elvis. Wonderful driving by all these racers, and some of the greatest tactics I've seen in a while. But congratulations to Elvis and Dark. We have wrapped up the drag race mini tournament, so now it's time to continue with the new custom mail-in tournament. Welcome to day number 2. Here's the group to start us off. We have Wild Willie G from Willie G Racing. We have Rob Maverick, wonderful design vehicle. We have SX Boys Strike from SX Boys Racing. And we have Puff from Puffs Racing. I must once again commend all of our submitted racers for their wonderfully designed vehicles. Let's see how they do on the track. And now today's races are underway. and Rob Maverick takes a slight early lead as he's being pushed forward by Weil. And he does take advantage of it, and now he has the lead, but Puff comes out of nowhere and rockets ahead of him. They go around the turn, Puff keeps the lead, and somehow it looked like Rob Maverick flipped over going around that turn, and he will likely not finish at this point. Definitely not a way to start. But Puff now has no competition. They manage to correct themselves, facing forward, and they take the first win. SX tried to make something happen at the last moment, but there was just too much of a gap. Actually, that was not SX, that was Weil. But it looks like SX, despite what happened, will still be able to finish. Rob Maverick was not so lucky. Yes, something about the way he was being bumped around while going around that turn caused him to lose so much speed. Meanwhile, Puff takes the win, and he actually takes the fastest time. Mr. Dark set the fastest time with a 15.47 last time, but now Puff, by 0.07, now holds that title. And SX was far behind, but he still finished, and that could make all the difference. Now for heat number 2, let's see if Rob Maverick will be able to make up for that little incident in our first race. So far, it looks like he might. He's pushing Puff forward. Will Puff be able to grab the lead going around the turn? Yes, they will. And as the race progresses, it looks like they're making the gap between him and the rest of the racers get bigger and bigger. The other three are actually staying relatively close together, and they are moving incredibly slow by comparison. Puff going down the straightaway before the last turn, heading towards the finish line now. They stay on the walls just a little bit, but they get their second consecutive win, finishing with an even faster 14.84. Meanwhile, here come the other three. Rob Maverick managed to finish in second, and the other two fall just short of the finish line. We're going to have to see what happened in that replay, because all three were staying relatively close together. Essex was actually in front of the other two, but they went sideways, allowing Rob Maverick to take the second place position. But as a result of Essex's move, they only not finished, but they stopped Weil from finishing. So now Puff just needs another win to stamp their spot in the next round. But they do start in the back. Let's see if that will affect them. So far it seems to, because they're currently in the back position. And it is Weil who now has the lead, with Essex somewhat close behind. But as I say that, going around that turn, Weil keeps making that lead get bigger and bigger. The other three are quickly falling behind, and now Weil has no competition whatsoever. And now they're heading for the finish line themselves, grabbing that win, dethroning Puff very early, keeping them from being undefeated, and now I believe they have the fastest time of 14.75. If it's not the fastest time, it is awfully close. What a wonderful race. But now with the way these races are going and Puff finishing in last, I'm not sure what to think with this group. Puff now has 11, so they are in the best position to still move on. And remember, it is the top two that will progress. And right now, in terms of overall points, Weil technically does have the edge. But Rob Maverick is close behind, so they cannot let their guard down for even a moment. And Weil does have the lead, but all four are right on top of each other. And with that clash, Puff is now the one trying to catch Weil. So far, he's proven to be unsuccessful, and Weil actually is making that lead slightly bigger. They stay straight, they cross the finish line, and it looks like he and Puff will be moving on. Very unfortunate for the other two, but it was definitely a battle worth watching. A valiant effort by Weil, especially not finishing after that second race. But they certainly made up for it. In fact, they almost grabbed the lead in points, so Weil and Puff will be moving on. Here's the second group for today. We have Boondocks from MQH Racing, Big Poppy from Big Poppy Racing, and Boomershine from Team Boomershine. Boomershine seems to be a common name with this guy, and it is a wonderful name. And look at the designs on these vehicles, they continue to impress. But let's see if it affects them in the races themselves or not. Right now, Boomershine does have that lead. That long vehicle could help them overall, but it also could hinder them depending on what happens. But they are moving like a bullet right now, especially compared to the other three, who are somewhat behind them. And now Boomershine goes around the last turn, heads down the straightaway. They almost went sideways, but they fixed it and they take the first win. And now they have the fastest time of 14.63. The one thing I'm worried about with that vehicle is what will happen if they skid sideways. If they're in front, they might be able to straighten out, especially if someone bumps into them. Otherwise, they might get stuck. But I am loving the way these vehicles look. Thank you to all who send in vehicles, and great job on customization. As we begin the second race, Boomershine does take that lead again. In fact, he already has a decent size, especially when you compare them to how most races start out in that first stretch. And now the other three are once again in a fight for second place. Boomershine moving very quickly. Look how smooth they're racing right now. Going around the turn, heading into the straightaway, hugging that wall to stay straight, and they do. And they finish, I believe that's even faster. This time with a 14.51. Finishing almost under 14.5 seconds. They are definitely giving Mr. Dark something to worry about. What fantastic displays of speed. But for now, Boondocks are tied for second in overall points. So now they will have to fight it out a little bit to see who will move on, most likely alongside Boomershine. And look at this, at the beginning of the third race, despite starting in the back, Boomershine is already up in second as he pushes, I believe that's Nick, out into the lead. So now Nick is currently in front. But now Boomershine, despite pushing him forward, is now looking to move past him, and he does! Moving around the outside and taking that lead. Almost spinning sideways, but so far is able to hold on to first place. Will Nick be able to catch him? No, he skids sideways just enough to lose that speed and fall behind. But they still finished in second, so now they have greatly increased their odds of moving on, especially since Boondocks apparently did not finish. Boomershine is shown to be a very massive threat already. They are showing to be a great contender for the finals later on in this tournament. But Nick definitely did need that break when going up against Boondocks. So now Boondocks only has 5. Big Papi has 4, and Nick has 8. So it's still possible for Boondocks to move on, which he very well might. If the race stays as is, where he currently has the lead, and Nick is actually in the back. Boomershine is now trying to find a way around Boondocks, but all he's doing is pushing him forward. This could be the break Boondocks needs. Will he be able to keep in first place? Boomershine tries to find a way around him, but he is unsuccessful. I think that might have been just what Boondocks needs. We'll have to take a look at the points in a moment. But this also means no one will be undefeated in this group either. We actually have a tiebreaker. If Nick actually stayed in 4th, then Boondocks would have moved on, but now Boondocks and Nick will fight for the second spot alongside Boomershine. I believe what will happen is we'll race twice, and whoever finishes with the overall fastest time between these two races will be the one to move on. And so far, Nick is the one out in front. And Boondocks is almost off screen completely, but he's trying to make up for that now. Nick is trying to stay calm, trying to stay collected. You don't want to be cocky in moments like this, because this is a make or break situation. And right now, Nick does have the first win, finishing with a 15.94. So I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this the way this will work is now not only does Boondocks need to beat Nick here, but they have to finish with a faster time than 15.94. So far, that is proving to be difficult, though, as he is already behind. It looks like he's actually closing the gap, though. This could make all the difference. Nick is trying to keep him behind him, and so far it proves to be successful, as now Boondocks not only loses some speed from that, but he's actually going even slower after bouncing off the walls. So as long as Nick finishes in first here, he will be the one to move on, and he will. Finishing with a 16 flat. So I believe Nick will be moving on. Let's check with the judges just to be absolutely sure. Yes, he will. Nick will move on alongside Boomershine. And now here we go. For today's finals, Nick and Boomershine will be joined by Puff and Weil. And the race begins with Weil and Boomershine out in front, and considering Boomershine has the fastest time right now, he is the one to watch out for. Right now, Puff was the one pushing him forward, and it seems to have worked so far, but now all three are right behind Boomershine. But now Puff is actually giving a nose block to Weil and Nick, but in doing so, he himself slows down, making it a lot easier for Boomershine to win. And now he does grab that first win, finishing with a 14.96. Puff did a fantastic nose block, but he seemed to forget that there was still one racer ahead of him. That being said, he still grabbed second place, so as long as he stays in second or better, he can still move on. So maybe that was what he was going for. But you don't want to do that too often, otherwise other racers might catch on. And if other racers catch on, that can spell doom. And now it is Boomershine and Puff, the two faster racers, arguably. But now, as I say that, while Boomershine is out in front, it is Weil who is in second, even though he started behind Boomershine, and now he's trying to find his way around him, and he actually loses speed as a result, backfiring along the way. And now it is Puff who's trying to pass Boomershine. But Boomershine is having absolutely none of that, as he races for the finish line and takes the second win. Meanwhile, Puff yet again, while spinning around, blocks the other two racers, preventing them from passing him. Using that tactic twice, and so far it is proving to work. But again, if you try it too often, it may end up being your ultimate downfall. So now for heat number 3. Puff and Boomershine starting off in the same lane. And so far, it's actually proving to be a problem. Because now they are in the back two, but now here comes Puff. He takes second place. Now he just has Nick to deal with. And all four racers, there's in a traffic jam. Puff tries his nose block again, but as we saw, it backfired, just like I thought it might if he isn't careful. And now Boomershine comes out of nowhere and takes the first place yet again. It looked like he was going to finish in second or third. But no, he actually managed to sneak his way around. And Puff, in a surprise turn of events, does not finish. He tried his nose block for a third time, and it cost him greatly. Meanwhile, it seems like the timer wasn't actually working, so we will not know how fast that lap was. It probably wasn't the fastest time given the circumstances. All we know is that Boomershine will automatically move on. But after that race, we're not sure who will be joining him. Because now Weil has 5, Nick and Puff both have 6. It could be a matter between those 3 who finishes in front of the other 2. And right now, that distinction goes to Weil, who's out in front trying to keep Boomershine from passing him, but ultimately fails, and now Puff passes him as well. Puff is not happy about how that last race turned out, and now he's trying to grab first place. And he once again goes for the block. I guess since it failed, nobody expected him to do it for a fourth time. But he ultimately did, and this time, 3 out of 4, it proved successful, and it looks like a piece of one of the vehicles actually came off. Go back in the video just to be sure, but I think somebody had a literal screw loose. But those are the 2 moving on. Thank you so much for watching. See you for day 3. We had a crazy day number 2. Let's see how today measures up. Hello everyone, welcome to day number 3 of the new custom mail-in tournament. Let's meet our first group that'll start us off. We have Cloaked After Dark from Ron Jansen. MDG from Team MDG. Hardcore Poetic Racing from Team Hardcore Poetic Racing. And Lily the Dog is back, thanks to Rick Latshaw. Once again, thank you all for submitting your vehicles. They all look absolutely fantastic. Let's see how they do on the track. And the race has begun. Lily the Dog is taking an edge. The other 3 racing, I was about to say they stayed relatively close together. But it actually looks like MDG is pushing Lily the Dog along and now is trying to find a way around them. But as they go around that turn, it's proving to be difficult. And now Hardcore Poetic is coming out of nowhere trying to pass them both. So far successful with MDG, and they take off. They now have the lead. MDG is now fighting for second. Lily the Dog quickly falls behind. And Hardcore Poetic takes the first win, finishing with a 15.57. Right now our fastest time, which was broken a lot in day number 2, is now being held by Boomershine, who has a 14.51 time to beat. Let's see if anyone can get under 14.5 seconds or even 14 seconds flat. But so far, Hardcore Poetic is in the lead in points. Let's see if they stay there. They do start in the back of the pack at the beginning of this race, and so far they are actually falling relatively behind, while MDG takes an early lead. Now Cloaked After Dark is the one in second, and now they're quickly closing that gap. Closing in an MDG around that turn. And MDG is going around the walls, and Hardcore Poetic once again comes up behind them. Unfortunately, they tried a nose block and it didn't work. And now MDG has an even bigger lead while the other 3 fight for second. MDG spins around, but they straighten out, and they had just enough speed to take the next win. Their time was a little bit slower there, but it could have been because of the contention early on. But now the points are spread out a little bit more evenly overall. And we also will not have an undefeated racer come out of this group. So far up to this point, we have not had anybody go through an entire video winning every single race they were in. Let's see if today it will change, but that can only happen if someone in the second group does it. But for now, NDG once again out in front. And they have a decent sized lead already. Hardcore Poetic, who normally is passing everybody by this point, is actually struggling in the back of the pack, while NDG has no contention against them whatsoever. And now they go into the home stretch, no one opposing them, and they take the third win. Not the third consecutive win, but the third race with the win. And Lily the dog managed to grab second. Hardcore Poetic is a little less fortunate, finishing in last. Hardcore Poetic, who seemed promising at the beginning, is now seen struggling. And it looks like we have a loose screw or something on the track. We're not sure if that came from one of these racers or if it's still there from the other day, in which case someone may need to go down on the track and pick that up, because that could be dangerous. But now for the fourth race, we're not entirely sure who's going to move on here after some of those races, but NDG is definitely in favor of doing so. And he actually ends up passing Cloaked After Dark, who held the lead for just a moment, but now it's in favor of NDG. And now Hardcore Poetic is once again playing catch-up. But so far, they're not able to do so up to this point, like they were in previous races, at least in that first one for sure. But NDG gets 3 consecutive wins, so they will move on. It's just a matter of who will go in alongside them. And so far, no one has been able to beat Boomershine's time. It looks like the screw is now off the track, so hopefully no one else will be affected by it. But it was Hardcore Poetic moving on alongside MDG. Let's see who will join them. Sneaky Bob from Vapor Racing. Arlo, a fan favorite, is back from Arlo Racing. Roberto Perez, thanks to Heriberto. And Leo from Reina Racing. Heriberto Perez, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly that time. But for now, here we go. The second group has started, and Arlo is pushing Sneaky Bob forward. And now they are in first and second respectively going around the first turn. And they are trying to pull away, leaving the other two in the dust. Heriberto is looking to find a way around Reina. Almost looked like they were going to, but so far they haven't. Meanwhile, Sneaky Bob stays out in front, and Arlo is trying to find a way to get around that turn, slingshot themselves forward, and pass them, but they just did not have what they needed to pull it off. And it looks like Sneaky Bob now has the fastest time. They have taken over Boomershine's time and now has finished with a 14.23. And with a time like that, I have no doubt in my mind that somebody could eventually go under 14 seconds. But now Sneaky Bob, if anyone is going to stay undefeated, it will be them. And here we go into race number 2. Arlo and Sneaky Bob are now in the back, while Heriberto and Reina take the 2 front spots. And Reina now has the lead. Heriberto is trying to keep the two leaders, from passing him, and so far it actually seems to be working. Heriberto stays in second around that turn where racers normally start passing each other, and he is doing everything he can to block them. And in doing so, I think Sneaky Bob actually started sliding sideways, while Heriberto actually takes a lead. And no one, through 3 days of racing, will stay undefeated. Which is especially the case because Sneaky Bob is on their side. It didn't look like anyone caused it to happen. I guess somehow the momentum shifted them onto their side. Great racing by Heriberto Perez. That is the break they needed. Now they just need to keep that momentum going. And now into race number 3. Arlo is out in front currently, and he's being pushed forward by Sneaky Bob, I guess returning the favor from earlier. Now it is those two out in front yet again. Now can they stay at that spot? It looked like Sneaky Bob is actually propelling Arlo forward. which Arlo may need if he wants to stay in this competition. This would be a surprise elimination if Arlo does not continue. But those two are fighting for first, and Sneaky Bob literally sneaks their way past Arlo at the last moment, taking the next first place finish. And Arlo consistently stays in second. Meanwhile, Heriberto finishes in third, and Reina in last. Yeah, sometimes you don't even need to finish in first place at all. As long as you're consistent, that could be exactly what you need in order to progress. These two will definitely need to step up their game. Heriberto had one good race. Let's see if they can get another one. And those points are suddenly looking a lot closer. Overall, in terms of points, Sneaky Bob has 10, Arlo has 9, Heriberto has 8, and Reina is only at 5. But they're all within 5 points of each other, so technically anyone could still move on. It all just comes down to where they will finish in this particular race. This could be a make or break situation. And right now it's looking pretty good for Arlo as they are way out in front this time around. Sneaky Bob may not be able to catch them this time. And they don't, as Arlo gets that win, so it looks like Arlo will be moving on this time. And here comes Heriberto finishing in third. I don't think it'll be enough since Sneaky Bob and Arlo, the two leading in points, finished in first and second. Meanwhile, Reina was barely able to cross the finish line. I don't know how they pulled that off to the point where they crossed the line and yet somehow did not go over the edge of the track. But they somehow found a way. They stayed in those little grooves on the track. That's one way to stay straight. But yes, Arlo and Sneaky Bob have rounded out the final spots in the finals, which we will now start. So now we have Arlo and Sneaky Bob joining Hardcore Poetic and NDG. And now we will see how each of these races play out. I think Sneaky Bob currently has the fastest time right now. So let's see if they can get another fastest time or not. So far, they're skidding sideways and trying to block Hardcore Poetic and Arlo from passing him. And now NDG is taking full advantage of that and leaving them all in the dust. Sometimes when you block, as we saw in the last race, it can actually make things worse for you. And NDG found a perfect opportunity and coasts along the line, finishing in first. And Sneaky Bob takes second, and Arlo finishes in fourth behind Hardcore. This could be dangerous. Arlo will definitely need to step up their game if they want to stay in this competition. Arlo is a familiar racer in competitions like these, so an early exit would be a shock. And now for race number 2, NDG currently holding on to the lead in points. And he's fighting alongside Sneaky Bob, who is now once again being pushed forward by Arlo. But now Arlo falls behind as Sneaky Bob takes the lead. NDG literally right on his tail, trying to find a way around him. Going side to side, so far he is able to find an opening, but doesn't have the speed to take it. And now here comes Arlo trying to pass up them both. Going around the last turn, Arlo's trying to find his way around. NDG is able to do it, while Sneaky Bob finishes in first this time around. Meanwhile, Hardcore Poetic finishes in fourth. So far, nobody beating that fastest time. But anything under 15 seconds right now is a little bit more promising. But now it is Sneaky Bob who holds the lead in points. But NDG is still following behind in a close second, only short by 1. And now it is MDG pushing Sneaky Bob forward, who has that lead, but Arlo is trying to make something of it, but so far is actually going the opposite way and almost fell into 4th place behind Hardcore. But around that turn, they managed to keep enough speed to stay in 3rd, and now there's a 3-way battle for 2nd as Sneaky Bob pulls away. It's hard to say who will finish in 2nd, but it's clear that Sneaky Bob will take another win. And I didn't quite catch who finished in 2nd. We'll have to check the replay just to be sure. It looks like it might have been MDG. Was Arlo able to take him? No. So now things are looking a little bit better for MDG, who now has 10 points. And let's double check the points in a second for the other racers. MDG has 10, Sneaky Bob has 13, so he's in a really good position. And Arlo currently only has 6. In order for him to move on, he will likely have to finish in first, while MDG falls far behind, and so far he is in first, as he executes a well-done nose block to keep the others behind him. And he was able to get a little bit of a momentum shift as he goes further ahead, but now he skids to a stop sideways on the track, causing the others to catch up to him, and now Poetic is the one who launches him forward. And Arlo was able to finish in first, while MDG finishes in fourth. I think as a result, we will have a tiebreaker between the two. But I think Sneaky Bob will be the one to automatically move on. And yes, Arlo and MDG will now have to fight for that second spot alongside Sneaky Bob. The way this will work is there will be 2 racers between these 2 racers, and whoever pulls up the fastest time overall will be the one to progress. And right now things are looking pretty good for Arlo as he slingshots himself around that turn, taking a decent sized lead. MDG is now in trouble. Arlo goes around the second to last turn before the last straightaway, and MDG is nowhere to be seen. And he takes an easy win, finishing with our new fastest time of 14.06. If this tiebreaker did not happen, then I believe Sneaky Bob would still have the fastest time, but now that title is given to Arlo. Although I'm not sure if people will count that or not, considering this is an unusual circumstance. But now, in order for MDG to move on, not only does he have to finish in front of Arlo, but he will have to get the record for the fastest time. So far, he's actually falling behind as Arlo takes another lead. But MDG is a little bit closer to him this time around, but he will have to launch himself forward like a rocket in order to stay in this competition. But Arlo will take the win, and Arlo sneaks his way in. He almost didn't get there, but that last race in the group gave him the opportunity he needed to get that tiebreaker and move on alongside Sneaky Bob. That is definitely an edge of your seat race right there. And now we have our next 2 people in the grand finals. And some crazy things happen in the first 3 days of this tournament. Let's see how day number 4 holds up in that category. Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's see who will start us off today. Sam Hall from, I believe that is pronounced Durtech, but I could be wrong. Rag and Ricky from Ricky Denning. Thank you, Ricky. Raptor Racing Rex from Raptor Racing. And finally, Wes Cosin from Miniature Car Racing. I know I say this all the time, but it still holds true. Thank you all who have submitted vehicles. They all look incredible. Let's see how they play out on the track as this day of the tournament begins. Sam Hall takes an early lead as Rag and Ricky is pushing him forward. That could help him, but it could also make things harder to catch up to Sam. He is gradually growing that lead as he pulls away. Now that Rag and Ricky was helping him, he now wants to catch up to him, but so far that's proving to be difficult as Sam Hall gets further and further away. He now heads into the final turn before the last stretch. Can he stay straight? He does skid a little bit, but he quickly corrects himself and he finishes in first. Finishing with, I think that is a 14.88. That is not quite the fastest time, which is actually held by Arlo, who got that time in a tiebreaker last video. Some people may or may not count that, but considering it was officially part of the tournament in one way or another, that time will be held up for now. And I believe he finished with a 14.06. He almost went under 14 seconds. So it's entirely possible that someone will beat Arlo's time in the future and break the 14-second mark, but we will see. For now, though, Sam Hall is the one to beat as he finishes in first, followed by Rack and Ricky, Wes Cosin, and then Raptor. Now, just because someone finishes in last does not mean they will stay there. We've seen some incredible comebacks so far. Now, Sam Hall and Rag and Ricky did start out in the back, but look at Sam as he's launching West Coastin forward. Going around the turn, it is West Coastin out in front. But then Sam Hall finds his way around and takes the lead. They go around the bend, and Sam Hall is getting further and further from the competition, but then he skids sideways, comes to a complete stop, only to be pushed forward again by Wes. And then it was a chain reaction as Rag and Ricky pushed Wes forward as Wes lost his speed. And now Sam has a big lead again, but now he's going backwards. Regardless, though, he does finish in first again. And because of that stop, the time was a lot slower this time around. Now the question is, where is Raptor? It looks like he's not going to finish. He got into the last part of the track, but somehow got stuck there. Let's see if the replay will give us any insight on what happened. That was definitely a risky race for our leaders, but they still managed to pull it off. As for Raptor, it looked like he hit the corner right before the track got bigger, spun himself around, and went sideways, causing all his speed to disappear. But now Sam Hall has 2 consecutive wins. A third one will guarantee a spot in today's finals. So now heat number 3 begins. Sam Hall is once again in the back, but also once again he is launching forward, this time pushing Rag and Ricky ahead of him. I guess he's returning the favor for Ricky doing the same for him earlier. And this is a lot closer this time around as they go around that turn, but Sam Hall yet again finds his way around his competition. But his lead is not as big this time. If he's not careful and he skids sideways again, he could lose his streak right now. But that being said, he does stay straight with a decent amount of speed and finishes in first yet again. He is automatically moving on to today's finals. Rag and Ricky finishes in second again. Here comes Wes finishing in third. And Raptor Racing. Is he going to finish this time? It looks like he will. But he does finish in fourth. He does have 2 fourth place finishes and 1 non-finish. So it's not looking good for Raptor Racing. That being said, I do love me a good Velociraptor, so points to them for that. Yes, somehow, Raptor Racing doesn't have as much speed as the other 3. He may just need to have a good position starting out. But we have 1 race left. Sam Hall is already in, but will it be Rag and Ricky or Wes joining him? We'll have to see. This race will decide it. Now Sam Hall, he starts out in the front this time and he's taking full advantage as he takes off. Rag and Ricky is trying to make something happen here. But so far in this tournament, every time Sam Hall grabs the lead, he just does not lose it. Now that could be a jinx, but we will have to see. So far, Sam Hall has left everyone far behind, causing him to have no competition whatsoever as he crosses the finish line for the sweep. That is one of, if not the very first sweep we've had in this tournament so far. And no one has been completely undefeated in a single video yet. So we'll see if Sam can be the first. But everyone does finish again this time. And he finished with a 14.96. Anything below 15 seconds should allow you to rest a little bit more comfortably. But considering some people have almost broken 14 seconds, you definitely want to get some practice in with your speed before the next time you're on the track. But it is Rag and Ricky who's moving on alongside Sam, so let's see who will join them in today's finals. It could be Dusty Miles from Milestone Diecast Racing. It could be T-Ball from Route 66 Diecast Racing. We have Matt McNear from Matt McNear himself, thank you Matt. And Iceman from Polk County Diecast Racing. The creativity on some of these cars is absolutely astounding. And here we go, the race has begun. And right now it is Iceman who has a slight lead, but Dusty Miles is trying to grab it away from him, but he does have the outside lane. Is that going to come into play? If anything, it actually helped him as he launched himself forward like a slingshot. And once he grabbed that lead, he immediately took off like a rocket, and no one is able to catch him right now. He has a huge lead going around that last turn. He has a long vehicle, so skidding sideways would be difficult actually. And he gets the first place finish, and we have a new record. Dusty Miles now holds the fastest time of 13.9. I figured somebody would break 14 seconds. I did not expect it to be this quick. But it looks like the long stretched vehicles are having a good time on this track, and Dusty Miles is a perfect example of it. Meanwhile, Iceman finishes in second, so he currently has the better odds of joining Dusty in the finals if things go as they are now. But Dusty Miles is now pushing Iceman forward, T-Ball pushing Matt McNear forward. And the way things are positioned right now, Iceman is actually in the lead, and Dusty Miles is looking for a way around him. He was able, if he's anything like Sam, he will be able to pull this off, but we'll have to see how the race progresses. He is trying to close that gap, but Iceman is trying to do everything he can to block Dusty Miles from passing him, and it works. Iceman manages to grab the second win, so Dusty Miles will not stay undefeated. And they finish with an incredibly fast time of 14.1. That is right in contention with some of the fastest times we've seen so far. So now we're 2 races in. Iceman and Dusty are both tied for second with 8 points apiece. Will the other two be able to come back from this? Or will Iceman and Dusty Miles be going into the finals? Right now, both of them are actually in the back. So Matt McNear does have the slight edge here, but here comes Iceman trying to slip past him. But so far, Matt McNear is having none of that, as he's successfully blocked Iceman from catching him so far. But now all four are staying relatively close together. Matt McNear gets flipped over, and he falls quickly behind as the other 3 take off towards the finish line. And Iceman takes another win. And Dusty Miles surprisingly finishes in 4th. Yeah, that was a very unfortunate tumble. Something around that turn combined with being pushed around. He flipped over, and Dusty Miles looked like he was trying to be a good sport about it and trying to flip him back over, but was unsuccessful in doing so as he passed by him. That definitely throws a wrench into things, but let's see how much of one. Right now with 2 wins, Iceman has 13, Dusty Miles has 10, and T-Ball actually has 7, so he technically could steal Dusty Miles' spot in the finals away from him if he finishes in front of him and does well enough. But right now the fight for first place is between Dusty and Iceman again. Iceman trying to navigate his way around Dusty, but Dusty, using the size of his vehicle to his advantage, keeps that from happening, and he takes a win, redeeming himself. Meanwhile, Iceman takes another second place finish, and Matt McNear somehow winds up on his back again. And almost the same exact spot, no less. But Dusty Miles and Iceman will be moving on. That is very unfortunate for Matt. Hopefully he's okay. We'll have the officials check on him. But here we go in the finals. Dusty Miles now has the fastest time. Let's see if that intimidates the other racers or not. So far, the first race is starting off relatively well, as all 4 are staying relatively close together this time around. But Sam Hall, seeing how Dusty was able to get the fastest time, is now trying to keep that from happening again and is looking for a way around him. But Dusty Miles actually cut him off, causing him to lose some momentum in the process. But he's not having any of that, as Sam Hall's trying to get the gap closed in on, and was unsuccessful, as Dusty Miles takes another win. And because of that, Sam Hall is no longer undefeated, so we will go 4 consecutive videos in this tournament without an undefeated racer. We do have a sweep at least, but that's about it. Now for race number 2. The edge is now in Dusty Miles' favor, but remember, the top 2 will be moving on. So someone else will still have a shot. And now it is Sam and Dusty in the same lane. Dusty, in the position that he's in, is aware that he has to push Sam forward in order to get an edge on the other two. But now he has to find a way around him. And Sam Hall actually spins around going backwards. All four are in a bit of a train here. And Dusty Miles is trying to get around Sam, but Sam is using his tail to block him. And Sam was able to get a win. Wonderful blocking. And that allowed him to finish in first and Dusty Miles in second. Now that is a good strategy, but you don't want to use it too much, otherwise the other racers might catch on. But now we have another two racers tied for first with 8 points each. And now for heat number 3, Dusty and Sam are starting in the back. Iceman and Ricky are trying to make something happen by starting out in the front. Will they be able to take advantage of it? They go around the opening turn, and Ricky is currently in the lead, but he is being pushed along by Iceman. Will he be able to navigate his way around Ricky? That has been a challenge for a lot of these racers so far, and it looks like he almost had it. But Rag and Ricky saw him coming and blocks him with the front of his vehicle. And then he spins around and taunts Iceman by staring at him in the face as he went backwards across the finish line. So those two finished a while ago, and the other two racers are just now coming in. These are the two racers that were leading in points, but it looks like they were having some sort of fight, as they were far behind and constantly in contention with each other as they approached the finish. Look how long it was before we even see them on camera. But you look at this, they're practically having a feud back there as they're going across the finish. But Sam Hall managed to keep his tail in front, allowing him to take third. This could blow the door wide open for the other two, who were struggling a little bit in the first two races. But now here's the final heat of the day. Dusty Miles starts out in the lead, which he may need after that last place finish. And he goes around the turn. All four are still staying relatively close together. In fact, Sam is pushing Ricky along to try and allow him, if anybody can, to catch up to Dusty. Ricky is so far not able to close the gap as Dusty approaches the last turn before the finish. Now he's in the stretch beforehand, and he crosses the finish line first, finishing with a 14.6. And here comes Sam in third. The way these finishes happened, I'm not sure who's going to move on. I believe it's still Dusty and Sam, but we'll have to be sure. This race was a little bit closer than some, but some of these races were a bit dangerous, actually. And it is Dusty Miles and Sam moving on. Rag and Ricky was so close, but fell just short. So now we have half our roster. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are about halfway through the preliminary rounds of this tournament, and now we have the other half of the roster to fill. Let's see how day number 5 goes. Welcome one and all, and welcome our first group for today's round of the tournament. Lone Wolf, thank you to Brian Saltz. Bolo Brown, thank you Kareem. Big C from Big C's Chop Shop. And Numbskull is back from Team Numbskull. Numbskull did pretty well overall in the recent drag race mini tournament that we did. So let's see how well he does in this tournament. Right now he starts off in the back, but he's actually pushing Big C quite far along. And he starts off in second behind him. Looking to close that gap, but it's actually slightly getting bigger. But now he's having none of that as he actually closes that gap just as fast. But trying to get around him, he ultimately does not do it. And he falls a little further back again, allowing Big C to try and get the lead. And Numbskull almost caught him. But Numbskull will stay in second. And Lone Wolf is still way up there, approaching the final turn before the finish. I'm sure They want to be a lone wolf, but I'm sure they prefer to be at the front of the pack as opposed to the back. But even then, they still managed to finish in third, as one of our racers still did not finish. I want to believe that lone wolf being that far back was in relation to that. Yeah, Bolo has some work to do as they didn't finish that first race. So let's see if starting out in the front later will help them at all. For now, the ones starting out in front are Numbskull and Big C. Numbskull currently has the lead, and Bolo, after that non-finish, is trying to get a miracle to happen, or at least a boost in points, but he is quickly falling into third place, taken over by Big C, who's now trying to take over Numbskull as well. Numbskull was not happy about their chances of being undefeated taken away after the first race. And now he's trying to stay in first for this one, and it looks like he will. He definitely got a little show-offish at the very end, spinning around to look Big C in the eyes right as he finished. Meanwhile, Lone Wolf was not so lucky as they got stuck sideways on the track, and Bolo Brown is on their side. Neither one of them getting points after that race. So far, Bolo Brown has yet to finish. So with two non-finishes in that particular race, Numbskull and Big C just got a huge boost in their chances of moving on, both with 8 points each. And Numbskull has the lead right now, but Big C is hot on his tail, and as I say that, he spins around and Bolo is able to take second. And I'm not sure where Lone Wolf is. He might have gotten stuck again. But now with all that commotion, Numbskull saw a window and went right through it, taking off with a huge lead in first. They do skid sideways a little bit, but they straighten out going backwards, and they finish, albeit very slowly, in first. Big C finishes in second, and Bolo once again finishes on their side, or rather, doesn't finish at all. But they stop on their side, and they were a lot closer to the finish line that time. And yes, Lone Wolf again winds up stuck sideways on the track. We've had some people get stuck like that, and we've had some people on their sides even upside down. But so far, Bolo has yet to finish. They could be the first racer in this tournament so far to not finish a single race. We've had that happen quite a few times in previous tournaments, but so far it hasn't happened yet here. Now Bolo is starting out in front. Now he just has the tough job of trying to block everybody. So far successfully doing that against Numbskull, who tried to pass him. And because that pass failed, Numbskull did lose a little bit of momentum, but he found another opportunity, but once again Bolo blocks him. But as a result, he's slowing down too, allowing the other racers to catch up. Here comes Lone Wolf, actually almost knocking Numbskull right off the track. And Bolo Brown went from not finishing at all to just barely finishing in first. They almost didn't get there at all. And it looks like after all that, he may be our only finisher. Big C upside down, way up on the track. And Lone Wolf could not get past Numbskull, who has their back end over the edge. This is something you don't see every day. Bolo went from being a person who has not finished yet to being the only finisher. Unfortunately, it was not enough, as Numbskull and Big C will move on. But talk about a way to go out. But now for our second group, which has Essa Khan from Khan Racing, Killa Kowalski from FPD Racing, Shababy from Steve, thank you Steve, and Amy Russell, thank you Amy. I once again must keep applauding all these designs. It looks like Essa actually took the top of a Cybertruck and strapped that to the top of their vehicle. So far it doesn't seem to be helping them, but that could change. But Killa Kowalski is another fan favorite who did really well in previous tournaments. Let's see if that holds true here. So far they aren't in first, but Shababy is right behind him. In fact, he's trying to find his way around. But Killa Kowalski keeps going side to side, preventing that from happening. But any open window that is taken could mean a loss. And just as I say that, it looks like he was about to do it, but Killa Kowalski blocked him again at the last moment, allowing him to take the first win. And everybody did finish here. Killa Kowalski starting off with a solid victory. Almost taken over by Shababy, but Kowalski was not having it. And finishing with a 15.02. Right now, the fastest time is actually being held by Dusty Miles from the last video, finishing under 14 seconds. The first and only finish with a time along those lines. I don't know if anybody will be able to get under 14 seconds here, but we've had great surprises already quite a few times in this tournament, actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got another one here. And now, with another fight for first place, it is Killa Kowalski and Shababy. Shababy so far has proven unsuccessful trying to find a way around Killa, who's been blocking him every step of the way, and managed to do it again as Shababy spins out. And Killa Kowalski takes another win. And here comes Essa. Now where is Amy? Looks like we will have yet another non-finisher. And they actually wound up upside down right as the last opening came in. We'll have to see in the replay where that happened. Somehow they were already upside down before they got to that point. But once they got down to the bottom of that hill, all their momentum was gone. So now Killa Kowalski just needs one more win to move on automatically. And judging by the skull on the side of their vehicle, they mean business. But they do start out in the back this time, and it looks like going around that turn they will stay in fourth. And so far, yes, that is the case. And now Amy is trying to hold on to a lead, but they immediately skid sideways, allowing the other three to catch up. And now we have a bit of a traffic jam going around that turn. They do open up a little bit, but Amy just cannot hold on to their speed. And now Killa is fighting for second, and Amy's trying to block him, but just the way that vehicle is designed, Killa Kowalski found their way around them, and Shababy was able to do the same. But Shababy still could not overtake Killa, who takes a third consecutive win. That was definitely one of the slowest races we've had in this tournament so far. But sometimes all that depends on where you start. And now Killa Kowalski is automatically moving on. It looks like, based on overall points, it is Shababy's spot to lose, to join him. And those two are already way out in first and second respectively, starting out in the same lane. And now Shababy is out in front with Killa. Now Killa is the one that has to try and find a way to navigate around them. And Shababy's taking off, taking away any possible opportunity for Killa to catch him. Killa's trying to stay undefeated, but here comes Shababy towards the finish line. If he can finish in first, and he does, Killa Kowalski will not be undefeated. But they had a very solid performance. And we have another non-finisher. And it looks like, I want to say it was, no, it was not Amy. I thought it was. But evidently I can't read the names on the bottom of the vehicles. It was actually Essa that didn't finish that time. But now we have all our finalists for today, and they will go up against each other in this last set. So far, it looks like it could potentially be anyone's game. But now as we begin this race, Killa is trying to take advantage of the inside lane and keep Numbskull from passing him, but so far Numbskull does have the lead. But all four are pushing right up against each other. And now Numbskull has the lead, with Shababy right on his tail, but everyone's practically on top of each other right now. They're forming a bit of a chain, and Numbskull is looking to block not one, not two, but three racers from passing him. And so far he's able to do it. Killa tried to pass Shababy at the last moment, but so far, actually not so far, He almost had it, but Shababy had him by a nose. Big C, however, finished in 4th and upside down. But now here comes heat number 2. Let's see if Big C can redeem himself. He does start out in the back, but he has gotten some speed and at least gotten 2nd place going around the first turn. But here, that is not happening, as Killa is once again fighting to block somebody from passing him and taking 1st place. This time, however, it is Numbskull who's trying to take him over. But Numbskull is losing some speed, falling behind. Killa Kowalski trying to take 1st place, which will greatly help him. He stays off the walls for the most part, and he does take 1st place. Numbskull in 2nd, Shababy in 3rd, and Big C in 4th yet again. They were a little bit more spread out this time, but Killa Kowalski, despite the solid performance so far, has constantly almost had someone on his tail trying to push him aside. So he definitely still has to be careful. And here we go into race number 3. No one's guaranteed a spot after this race, but definitely in the next 2 it will be decided. Big C starts out in the front this time around, and now he has the job of blocking everybody. So far able to do so, but these other racers are hot on his tail. And now he's quickly gone from 1st to 3rd, and now Killa is the only one trying to find a way around him, and proves to do so. Big C had a promising start, but he actually ends up finishing in 3rd. Somehow Numbskull was doing really well, but then he got spun around by Killa, allowing Big C to at least take 3rd. So now those points are looking a little bit more spread out. It's definitely a bit more open for some of the racers falling behind in points. Right now, Numbskull has 9. Big C only has 4. Shababy has 10. And Killa also has 10, actually. So Shababy and Killa are tied for 1st. But Numbskull is not short on points. They could still move on. And they very well might if they stay in 1st like this. Especially if Big C stays in 2nd and the other 2 stay back where they are. I am not even sure where they are right now. But Numbskull manages to grab a win right when he needs it. Big C in 2nd. And it is Killa who finishes in 3rd and Shababy in 4th. We're not sure what happened with the 2-point leaders, but that could change everything. I believe it'll be Killa moving on, but who will join him? It will be Numbskull, who managed to grab a comeback and will be joining Killa Kowalski in the Grand Finals. Thank you all so much for... We are creeping ever closer to the Grand Finals, but we still have a few days to go. Hello everyone and welcome to day number 6 of the Custom Mail-In Tournament. Let's see how the 6th day goes, starting with our first group. We have 4114 Racing from the team of the same name, Craigster Sr. from Hot Nuts, Sir Pounce, thank you to Brenton, and Junkyard Dog from Noob Racing. I know I say this every time, but it's because it's true every time. I really love the creativity that participants have for their vehicles. And each time they put them to the test on the track, they do not disappoint. But now 4114 is in the lead right now as he was being pushed forward by Craigster Sr. But Craigster Sr. as a result lost some of his speed. And now 41 does have a decent sized lead over the other 3. And it looked like Sir Pounce and Junkyard Dog were actually kind of going up against each other back there. We'll see how that comes into play as they approach the finish line, which is crossed first by 4114. Let's see if they will finish. Yep, here they come. And it looks like Sir Pounce will finish in 3rd and Junkyard Dog in 4th. I'm sure Junkyard Dog is trying as hard as they can to represent the other dog racers, such as Lily the dog. So far, not off to a good start, but we've seen some incredible comebacks in this tournament so far. I would not be surprised if that continues to happen. But for now, 4114 does start off with the lead in points. But that doesn't mean they'll stay there. They will have to continuously be careful. We've seen some dangerous things happen on this track. Some racers get flipped over, some almost got pushed off. And definitely some feuds have happened on the track. But for now in this second race, Sir Pounce actually has the lead. Also being pushed forward by Craigster Sr. Where Craigster Sr. is a lot closer to them and is actually looking for a way around them. They go around the inside, but they did not have enough to take the lead. Sir Pounce now is taking off, heading into the straightaway before the finish line. Actually almost got vertical for a second and came to almost a complete stop as Craigster Sr. finds his way around them and finishes in first. In fact, Sir Pounce may have not finished at all if he wasn't being pushed forward by the two other racers that were behind them. That is definitely unfortunate, especially for Junkyard Dog, who looked like they were about to make that comeback I was talking about. But the block kept them from finishing any better than fourth again. This is what I mean, folks. We've seen some surprising finishes. Anything can happen, even in the last moments before the finish line. And now in race number 3, Craigster Sr. is holding on to the lead. Now he doesn't have anyone in front of him, so I'm sure they'll be able to stay going fast, rather. Ugh. That's what these exciting races can do to you. Sometimes your mouth will end up moving faster than your brain. But these cars are moving even faster than that. As they head towards the finish line, it is Craigster Sr. in first. And he actually lost a bit of speed, but he had enough to cross with no problem. And we do have a non-finisher, and it is Junkyard Dog. This is not the way they would have wanted to go, but that's looking like how it's going to be. But the fact that they came here with a very fun design, no less, means a lot to this racing community. But now in this fourth race, it looks like 4114 and Craigster are in the best position to move on right now. And Craigster does have the lead, but behind him is actually Sir Pounce, who's looking to, at the very least, block 4114 from passing them. Maybe even get a nudge forward so he can catch up to Craigster, who's currently driving backwards, looking at them in the eye as they race towards the finish. No one is undefeated in this group, but Craigster Sr. is in the best position to grab the highest amount of points, and he will. Meanwhile, Sir Pounce finishes in second. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. I believe 4114 will still be moving on alongside Craigster, but we'll get the official confirmation in a moment. And it doesn't look like anyone was able to get the fastest time in this group, which is still held by Dusty Miles at 13.9. And it is 4114 joining Craigster Sr. Let's see who in this group will join them in the finals, which has Billy Bob Outback from MDG. We have Nomo, thank you to Caroline. We have Graveyard King from Hand Racing 3. And we have Flip Gambino from Flips Racing. These are definitely some interesting designs, especially on Nomo's part. The way that vehicle is structured, I'm not sure if that's going to help or hinder them, but we are about to find out. As we start the race, Flip Gambino takes the lead, followed closely behind by Graveyard King. But out of nowhere, Flip Gambino literally flips over, living up to their name, I suppose. And then Graveyard King follows suit. The two leaders both flip on their side or upside down, and now it is Nomo and Billy Bob Outback going very slowly towards the finish line. This is what I mean by crazy events happening in this tournament. Things like this can happen at any time. Will Nomo be able to grab the first win? It looks like they will. They almost got overtaken by Billy Bob at the last moment. But Nomo managed to grab that win due to very unusual circumstances. The two racers that were out in front, both of them flipped either over or on their side respectively, And we have what I believe is the slowest first place finish in this tournament so far, with 22.26. Let's see if lightning strikes twice and we have another crazy turn of events in this race. Flip Gambino does start out in front, but will he flip over again? So far has not done that, staying on their wheels and launching ahead. It looks like they're slipping around a little bit, but as quickly as they start slipping, they just as quickly correct themselves. When they go into the final turn, no one is contending with them whatsoever. And they take that win, keeping Nomo from staying undefeated. In fact, this will lead us to say that we've now gone 6 consecutive days in this tournament without an undefeated racer. And an undefeated racer, in order to be undefeated, they can get a sweep, but in order to stay undefeated, they will have to win 8 times in a row when they're first introduced. And then in order to stay undefeated, they obviously have to win every race they're in until the end of the tournament, which is extremely rare. But that first race definitely threw a wrench into things. And now for heat number 3, Nomo is starting out in front, but he and Billy Bob quickly fall behind, and now it is Graveyard King and Flip Gambino out in front again. And so far, they are staying on their wheels, but just as I say that, Flip Gambino flips on their side, and then Nomo comes along out of nowhere and finds a way to put him back on his wheels. Ladies and gentlemen, that may be one of the first times in history we've seen a racer get off of their wheels and then somehow get back on. And look at that. It looked like they were going to be out, but Flip Gambino managed to grab first place after that little commotion. But we still do have a non-finisher. In this case, it is Billy Bob Racing. And look at Nomo. They are coming out of nowhere. They might have grabbed second place. Let's see what the judges say. They did! A surprising turn of events for Nomo. I am sure they are on the edge of their seats right now. Because after some wacky turns of events, Nomo may actually still have a shot to progress in this tournament. In fact, they are almost in the lead in points, only 1 point behind Flip Gambino. This is not what everybody was expecting, I am sure. But this time around, everyone is on their wheels, and Flip Gambino has the lead, followed closely by Billy Bob. And now they're heading into the last straightaway. Flip Gambino does finish in first, and Billy Bob finished in second. Meanwhile, Nomo does not finish as good as they would have liked. That could spell the end for them. And unfortunately, it looks like the timer might have been busted on that one. So we're not sure what the time was. But Nomo actually is staying in this tournament as they join Flip Gambino in the finals. Talk about good karma. After they saved Flip Gambino, they will join them in these finals right here. But now in this race, Nomo is in fourth and quickly falling behind as Craigster Sr. is pushing Flip Gambino along, allowing them to get a huge lead over the other two. But Craigster Sr. goes sideways just enough to lose a decent amount of speed. This could be the break that Nomo needs yet again. Meanwhile, Flip Gambino, without anyone to contend with them, coasts across the line in first. And Craigster in second, 41-14 in third, and here comes Nomo in fourth. Now, just because Flip Gambino finished in first here does not mean they won't flip over or not finish at all in other races. In fact, if it wasn't for Nomo, Flip Gambino would have had a non-finish earlier on. But now here comes heat number 2. Nomo is starting in the back again, which means I believe they should start out in the front in the next 2 races, which could be exactly what they need. But for right now, Flip takes the lead. Craigster Sr. trying to make something happen. But in order to do that, they need to close that gap, and so far they haven't been able to do so. It does seem a little bit closer, but right now that is not saying much, as Flip Gambino races towards the finish line yet again, taking the win. And they finish with a 13.95. That is not quite the fastest time, because it was 13.9 held by Dusty Miles, but it is pretty close. And Flip Gambino is one of few racers, in fact, I think they're the second one so far, to get a first place finish under 14 seconds. That is definitely reassuring for them, as they are likely to progress in this tournament to the grand finals. Now, who will join them is the ultimate question. We have no idea right now, despite the point spread. But the two leaders in points are in the same lane, and they're pushing each other forward yet again. This seems to be a common strategy among leaders. But now Flip Gambino is looking to pass Craigster Sr. up. So far they bumped off the walls, causing them to lose some momentum, but they are quickly getting it back. They are trying to close that gap. Here they come, bumping into Craigster Sr. yet again. But then Flip Gambino ends up on their side once more. And they may not finish unless someone pushes them along. And no one does it. Flip Gambino just needed one more win to automatically move on to the grand finals. And they very well still might. But now it is not guaranteed after only 3 races. Because usually you can just take a breath of fresh air in the 4th race if you get 3 wins. But that didn't happen here. And now 1 heat left for this group. And Nomo is again starting out in front, this time alongside 41-14. But Flip Gambino is pushing 41 along, and now they are the top 2, as Nomo is fighting in 3rd, and he actually almost found a way around Flip Gambino, but didn't quite get what he needed in order to pull that off. And now Flip Gambino is the one looking to pass 41, and he actually does it. And Flip Gambino, with every passing moment, gets a larger and larger lead, launching like a rocket across the finish line as they get through that last turn into the straightaway. And it will be Flip Gambino moving on in this tournament. I believe it'll still be Craigster Sr. joining him despite that 4th place finish. Or 4th place, I misspoke there. And we'll have to see the points overall. It is Craigster Sr. Now, despite Nomo not moving on, he is still a very respected racer for what he did for Flip Gambino. We have 4 more spots left to fill in this custom mail-in tournament before the grand finals, and 2 of them will be grabbed today. Hey everybody, welcome to day number 7. Let's see who in this first group will move on to today's finals. We have Champagne Poppy from Blue Line Racing. We have David White. Thank you so much, David. We have In Your Face from Team In Your Face. Very powerful name. And Chewy Mandingo from Mandingo Motorsports. I'm loving some of these designs. And Champagne Poppy is from Blue Line Racing, and Blue Line Racing is currently the defending champion in these tournaments. And so far they are actually in the lead in their first appearance in this one. But they're quickly being overtaken by Chewy. So will they be able to take first place back? It looks like they're trying to, and they do have the inside lane. They almost take it back. They're actually going side by side right now. Usually someone's blocking or something by this point, but so far, no. And Champagne Poppy takes the first win after a phenomenal nose block. Look at this. They kept their nose in front for that whole stretch. That is not easy to do. Usually they get spun around at some point, but not Champagne. We're now for heat number 2. Let's see if Champagne Poppy can do just as well in the second race. And right out the gate, Champagne Poppy is pushing Chewy Mandingo forward. It's practically a 2v2 when races like this happen. But now Chewy is in first yet again. But now, Champagne Poppy is even further behind, so it's going to be even harder to catch them. But Chewy is losing some speed, bouncing off those walls. This could be the break that Champagne Poppy needs. And here he comes like a rocket, trying to catch him. Will he be able to pass him? No! Chewy Mandingo takes the second win. Not their second win, but the second win of this particular group. And so far, the fastest win we've had so far is still, I believe, 13.9, which was done by Dusty Miles on day 4. But some racers have gotten pretty close. But now the points are tied between Champagne Poppy and Chewy Mandingo. Now for race number 3, the 2-point leaders are starting in the back. But Champagne Poppy pushes the one in front of them forward yet again, allowing them to take second place. But they are all right on top of each other as they go around that next turn, forming a train of sorts, but Chewy is falling behind the other 3. They will need to make something happen in order to keep their chances in this tournament alive. Of course, those first 2 races may still help them, but we'll have to see. And Chewy Mandingo is trying to push his way through, but could not do it, as Champagne Poppy blocks not 1 but 2 people, including Chewy. So Champagne Poppy was able to still hold on to second, while David White grabbed first that time. If David White can do that again, they may still move on. But it's still going to be pretty difficult. And now Champagne Poppy starts out in front, so he didn't have to worry about pushing anyone out of his way. And their lead is gradually getting bigger, but Chewy might have heard me say that as they tried to find a way to close that gap. But now Champagne Poppy is trying to hold on to that lead. They're bouncing off the walls though, which could be dangerous if they keep that up. But they use the wall this time to stay straight and they grab another win. So they will be moving on, and it looks like Chewy will be joining them. And Champagne Poppy did finish under 14 seconds. Didn't quite grab the fastest time, but they are one of few to finish under 14. A valiant effort by each of these racers, and almost all of them got at least 1 first place win, but Champagne and Chewy will be the ones moving on. And now for the second group for today, which has AJMGH. Thank you to AJ. We have Big Cat from Epic Videos. We have Draydra Lin from Dedra Lin Racing. Might have been a mistype there, but I could be wrong. And Rebel Racer from Rebel Racing. Now in terms of overall design, Rebel Racer might be one of the flattest vehicles we've had so far. So let's see if that helps or hinders them. So far, they start out in the front of the pack, alongside Big Cat. And they do have the inside lane, but Big Cat is trying to find a way around him, blocks him with his nose, but in doing so allows Dedra to catch back up. And now they are in second, but Rebel Racer is finding their way around them, now just has to deal with Big Cat. But first they have to actually catch up to them. Big Cat, however, is not making that easy, as they head towards the finish and grab the win. But Rebel Racer actually almost passed him at the last moment. If they had another little bit of track, they might have been able to pull it off. Rez, however, was not able to get any better than 4th. In fact, they didn't finish. So far, not a good start for Rez. And right now, Big Cat, not Big the Cat, that is an entirely separate character. But Big Cat is now in second place, trying to push Rebel Racer out of the way, but ends up just helping him. Now he has to find his way around Rebel Racer But Rebel Racer, anytime Big Cat moves, Rebel Racer is there to meet him. And it looks like Big the Cat will take him over before the last turn. Yes, he will. Heading towards the finish, Rebel Racer falls into second once more. And it looks like another non-finish for Rez in almost the same spot, it looks like. This is not looking good for Rez, but looking very good for Big Cat. Big Cat is certainly earning their stripes, if you will. And now they're starting in the back half alongside Rebel. The Rebel Racer is trying to find their way around these races. So far was able to pass Rez and Big Cat actually. But they're not as lucky as they get around that turn, and it's Deidre who has a decent sized lead this time around. The other three racers are fighting with each other, and Deidre is finding that opportunity to get as much of a lead as they can before the other three catch up. And now they will take the win. What's going to happen with the other three? It looked like Rez was actually going to get second, but it looks like based on that stopped frame, Rebel Racer might have actually overtaken him at the last literal possible moment. Take a look at that. Rebel was behind, but because of that blocking, Rez lost some speed. And Rebel did grab second. That is about as close as you can get in a race like that. And now one more race. Big Cat has 11. Rez has 3. Deidre has 9. And Rebel also has 9. That first place finish is exactly what Deidre needed. But now they're starting out in 4th. They need to finish in front of Rebel Racer in order to move on in this tournament. But Rebel is not making it easy for them, as they are the one in contention for first alongside Big Cat. They're going to the final turn. Rebel has fallen behind just slightly, and they actually got a little bit faster. If they had kept that up, they would have been able to pass Big Cat, I'm sure. But for now, they will have 4 consecutive second place finishes, while Big Cat finishes with a 15 seconds flat. So it will be Rebel and Big Cat moving on. And now that we have all 4 racers for today's finals, let's begin. 4 very formidable racers. 4 great designs sent by 4 great people. And Champagne Poppy takes a slight lead after being pushed forward by Big Cat. And Big Cat is now trying to stop the other 2 from catching him, but it completely backfires as Chewy not only passes Big Cat, but Champagne Poppy as well. Now Chewy Mandingo has the lead. Can they hold on to it is the question, as Champagne Poppy is trying to gain that speed back and pass them, but couldn't do it. Chewy Mandingo grabbed first, Champagne Poppy second, Big Cat third, and Rebel Racer in 4th. A very respectable time of 14.27, no less. That's why you never, ever give up. And now as we go into heat number 2, we will actually be going 7 full videos without an undefeated racer. You need to finish in first all 8 times in the I cannot talk today, my apologies. Preliminary video that you appear in. That is a difficult word to say, apparently. But getting back to the race, Champagne Poppy does have the lead, but the other 3 are actually pretty close, all things considered. Champagne Poppy comes into the final stretch. So far, no one was able to contend with them, and they will take that win. Chewy Mandingo in second. It looked like Big Cat was going to do really well, but they're actually struggling right now, as they finish in 4th that time around. And it is Champagne Poppy and Chewy tied for 8 points apiece. 2 races to go in today's finals. Everything is in favor of Champagne Poppy and Chewy right now. That being said, Champagne is currently in second, but as Big Cat spins around, Champagne finds his way around him, and now he is in first while Big Cat is going backwards, trying to find a way to navigate going past Champagne in reverse, which is something you won't often see, and it looks like it won't happen now, but it was pretty close. Champagne Papi takes another win, Big Cat in second this time. As for third and fourth, it looks like Rebel finished in third and Chewy in fourth. And now it's a little bit harder to tell who will move on after that. Things are definitely still looking up for Champagne though, as they have 11 points. Chewy Mandingo has 9, Big Cat has 6, and Rebel Racer has 5. So it's pretty much guaranteed that Champagne will be moving on, as they're the only person in this group right now with double digits in points. But Chewy Mandingo is still in a good position to move on if they can stay and finish strong. And they currently hold second, and it looks like they gained a bit of speed, but it will not be enough to catch up to Champagne Papi as they cross the finish line. So Champagne Papi will be moving on. I believe Chewy will be joining him. Let's double check the scores just to be certain. And that is exactly what happens. Chewy and Champagne moving on in spectacular fashion. And now we only have 2 more spots to fill before the grand finals. Ladies and gentlemen, it is almost time for the grand finals, but we have 1 more day to go beforehand. And this is that day. Welcome to day number 8. Here are the contestants, the last couple of groups before the grand finals. First up, we have Jesus from J&J Trucking. Next up, we have Lucky from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have Gaylord Fokker from GF Racing. And finally, it looks like Races and Fun themselves have implemented a vehicle into this tournament. Let's see how that plays out. It could just be a substitute racer, could not be. Maybe Races and Fun wanted to get in on the action themselves. And so far, they are the ones in the lead while the other 3 trail a little bit. Going around that first turn, they maintain that lead, but it looks like Jesus is trying to creep up on them in any way possible. So far, RAF is having none of that. And their lead keeps expanding. Bouncing off the walls a little bit, they go into the final turn, heading towards the finish line with no competition whatsoever. And they take that first win with a 14.13. Right now, the fastest time still is held by Dusty Miles with a 13.9. Some racers have gotten very close, but close does not get the job done. And we have 2 non-finishers. Gaylord tried to stop Lucky from finishing with a nose block, but unfortunately that also did them in. And as a result, we only had 2 finishers, RAF and Jesus. Of course, it could also be pronounced Jesus, now that I think about it, but I could be wrong. It could be a fun little play on words for their name. But we had 2 non-finishers that time. Let's see if they can fix that in this race. They begin with RAF once again out in front. We'll have to see what happens as they start in the back row in the next couple of races. But this order is looking a little familiar, and Jesus is about as far back as they were the first time. This RAF vehicle so far has been doing relatively well, getting pretty close to that 14-second mark, dancing around it. Now they have to try and get under 14 seconds. Can they do it? They finish in first yet again, and they actually tie for the fastest time we've seen so far, 13.9. Now we have 2 racers holding on to it, RAF and Dusty Miles. And we have yet more non-finishers. Gaylord Fokker stuck before the finish line, and Lucky is anything but, as they end up facing the other way and upside down. Were they like that before or after the turn? Here they come. It looked like Lucky might have already been upside down, but Gaylord Fokker tried to be a good sport about it and try and flip them over. But unfortunately, even with a good maneuver like that, it also cost them a finish. So now RAF has 2 consecutive wins, 1 more, and they will automatically move on. And they are one of the few vehicles remaining that can possibly be undefeated, which, by the way, no one has been able to do. Some racers, like Sam Hall, have been able to get a sweep at least, but still not able to finish in first every single race they've appeared in so far. But now RAF is looking to get that 3rd consecutive win. Once again, no one anywhere close. And they finished a little bit slower that time, but a first place finish is still a first place finish. Meanwhile, Lucky manages to grab 2nd place that time. Let's take a look at that replay once again. Lucky was in 3rd, got bumped around by Jesus a little bit, and then got a decent block in front of Gaylord Fokker. I guess they didn't consider too much about Gaylord trying to flip them back over, but as they say, all's fair in love and war. Or in a race in this case. And now 1 race remains for this group. RAF is already moving on. And so far, Jesus, being the only other person to finish all 3 times up to this point, is most likely to move on alongside them. In fact, they're right on their tails, but going around that turn, Jesus lost a bit of speed, and now RAF has a decent-sized lead yet again. And they go into the final turn. Going into the stretch, they spin around, go backwards, and they finish in style with 4 consecutive wins, leaving them with a sweep. So RAF, Sam Hall, and I think there were 1 or 2 other racers throughout this tournament that managed to get a sweep. But even then, that has not been very common. And here comes Gaylord looking to finish for the first time, and they do. So every racer finished at least once. But Lucky, once again on their back. This time further up the track. But now we have our 2 racers moving on to the finals of today's video, RAF and Jesus. The other 2 racers put in a valiant effort, but unfortunately, they did not have a great experience, and Lucky was anything but lucky. So here we have it. RAF and Jesus moving on. There are only 2 slots left before the finals today, and only 2 slots moving on to the grand finals. We have Daniel MG from Respectful Collectors. We have RoboCop, actually, from Neighborhood Watch. We have Tito from Tito Racing. And we have Silver Bullet, thanks to Adam Ellis. I gotta keep giving props to the creativity on some of these vehicles today. In fact, throughout this tournament, we've seen quite a few unique designs. Tito, for example, has a unique type of covering there, and it looks like Silver Bullet actually used Legos on their vehicle. But unfortunately, it looks like everybody is actually coming to a stop right now. Silver Bullet and Tito fell behind. In fact, I think they flipped over. Daniel MG is barely moving at all, and RoboCop, despite going downhill, is not moving that fast either. Will RoboCop be the only person to finish? Right now they're fishtailing, and they are coasting as they go down this track. They don't have any competition currently, and they barely had enough speed to drift along the finish line there. And that, while not the slowest time we've seen for a first place finish, it is one of the slowest. Tito's on their side. Silver Bullet, I think, is upside down. And Daniel MG somehow stopped going downhill. This is a perfect example of some of the craziness we've seen throughout this tournament. Only 1 finisher among this group right now, that being RoboCop. That definitely puts him in a good position, but what of the other 3? But now here we go into the second race. All 3 of those racers looking to redeem themselves right now. And they are all in front of RoboCop currently. And it looks like they're going to stay on their feet for now. Hopefully they'll stay that way. And as I say that, Silver Bullet flips over. In fact, 3 of the racers came to a stop in a traffic jam. And now it's Daniel MG who had the lead, but then they flip over going around that turn. Look at this. RoboCop is the only one on their feet, but because they were stuck behind the other racers, they didn't finish either. This is one of the few times in this tournament where no one finished in one particular race. That definitely helps RoboCop a little bit, but anything can still happen. This is quite the unique experience, I am sure of it. Now going around that first turn, Tito is already on their side. It looks like they might be a little bit top heavy. And now RoboCop is out in the lead again. And we still have Daniel MG and Silver Bullet moving. In fact, here comes Daniel MG out of nowhere. But that burst of speed caused the momentum to shift and they flipped onto their side. And now RoboCop is all alone once more. They almost don't finish. Will we have anyone else finish? Here comes Silver Bullet. Will they have enough speed? They are coasting towards the finish line and they stop just short. I am blown away by the results of these races in this group. So far, we have only had one person finish, that being RoboCop. Everyone else either gets close or just flips over early. One thing's for sure, it doesn't look like anyone will be beating any speed records here. So far, RoboCop is the only person to finish, which makes you wonder what will happen if RoboCop is the only person to finish. Because then everyone else technically ties for second. What if they don't score? Is that going to matter? We go around the first turn. So far, everyone is still on their wheels. Daniel MG currently has a lead, and he's on his side yet again. And now he's blocking the track for everybody. RoboCop can't move. Silver Bullet couldn't go anywhere either. As for Tito, actually, this is quite the unusual set of events. Only one person finished throughout that group, and even then, they only finished twice. I think that is the highest amount of DNFs in a single group. And since RoboCop was the only finisher, they will be the only person to move on. So now Gaylord Fokker has been given a second chance. But right now it is RAF out in front. All 4 of these racers have been able to finish at least a couple times. So hopefully all of them will be able to finish now every time. RAF currently has been shown that they are not someone to mess with, as they've been pulling up really fast times all throughout so far. They finish in first. RoboCop finishes in second. This is probably a breath of fresh air for them. Meanwhile, Gaylord finishes in third, and Jesus in fourth. Yeah, all 4 managed to finish that time, which is something we didn't see at all in the last group. I'm still blown away by that. I'm pretty sure that is the most DNFs in one group we've seen in a long time. But now RoboCop has some more competition going up against RAF, Jesus, and Gaylord Fokker. RAF still holds on to the lead currently. At this point, it's practically a fight for second place. But here comes RoboCop, as I say that, trying to close the gap between him and the Races and Fun vehicle. But something about that straightaway caused them to lose all the momentum they had going forward, and RAF holds on to that lead. Approaching the finish line now, they stay straight and they take another win. RoboCop thankfully finishes in second for them. Thankfully for them is what I meant. As for the other two, will they finish? Still waiting on them, and here they come. Gaylord finishes in... Excuse me. Gaylord finishes in third yet again, while Jesus remains in fourth. This is quite the unusual day, and what a day it is to close off before the grand finals begin. But all four finish once more, all in the same position so far, and RAF once again is in a position where if they finish in first one more time, they will automatically progress. They do start out in the back row, but they are pushing RoboCop forward. And so far they're actually stuck in second, trying to find a way around RoboCop, and RoboCop is doing a nose block, trying to slow him down, which allowed the other racers to catch up as well. And so far RoboCop is maintaining that lead, which has been proven to be a challenge so far. Here comes RAF trying to find his way around him yet again, but as a result spins around. And now RoboCop dethrones RAF as an undefeated racer. So I believe we will go into the grand finals with no one having won every single race up to that point. But it looks like we will have a non-finisher in the name of Gaylord. In the form of Gaylord, I should say. But take a look at this. We are going into the grand finals with no one winning all 8 races leading up to it. But now, RAF and RoboCop are currently in the best positions to move on in this tournament. RoboCop and RAF start in the back, but RAF, being the seemingly faster vehicle, is pushing Gaylord forward, and now Gaylord Fokker currently has the lead. And now he's trying to block RAF from passing him, but to no avail. Now he's trying to block the other two, trying to go out on a high note at this point. Will he be able to? RAF leaving the competition in the dust, approaching the finish line one more time, going sideways, and they actually come to a stop. Will someone be able to pass them or push them forward into the finish line? RoboCop finds his way around him, seemingly in the smallest possible gap. And it looks like we will have only one finisher here. RAF didn't finish. Gaylord somehow got stuck back there. And somehow Jesus wound up in the safety net. Not sure what led to that. Probably flew off the track at some point going too fast, or did not have good control. But it looks like RoboCop did nudge RAF, but not enough to the point where it made a difference. So RoboCop and RAF are filling out the final spots in the grand finals, and here is your roster for it. Thank you all so much for watching. Road, but we have finally made it here. Hello everyone, welcome to day number 9, the first half of the grand finals in this custom mail-in tournament. Let's meet the first group who have made it here so far. Numbskull has returned from Team Numbskull. Killa Kowalski from FPD Racing. We have Mr. Dark from Dubious Diecast. And we have Uncle Elvis from Team Uncle Elvis. A lot of these racers have been loved by the audiences so far, whether it be because of their performance or the designs, or in some cases, both. But now the grand finals have begun. Now these racers will compete to participate in the ultimate finals on the final day of the tournament. And right now, Numbskull currently has the lead. The other 3 are trailing behind quite a bit. But Numbskull cannot be too comfortable. If they do, they might slip up and cause the other 3 to catch up behind them, which we've seen quite a few times in this tournament so far. But Numbskull does stay straight, and they take the first win of the grand finals. And Killa Kowalski goes out in style, crossing the finish line in second. And I'm not sure if that particular finish is going to count or not. The front of the vehicle did go on top of the finish line, so maybe if the light registers that they crossed, that will still count. Let's take a close look. It looks like they broke the plane, so that will count. Uncle Elvis is on the board with at least 1 point. But now they have some work to do, as Numbskull already has 5. But Uncle Elvis does start out in the front. Let's see if that will help him. Killer Kowalski is pushing Mr. Dark forward, so Mr. Dark will have the lead going around the inside. But now Killer Kowalski is looking to make a comeback, going around Mr. Dark around the outside, but that did not quite work. But now this race is a lot closer than the first. Now Killer Kowalski is trying to close that gap, and it seems like he is successful, but now he has to find a way around Mr. Dark. But here comes Numbskull in the process, and who will grab the win? It's hard to tell. It almost looked like a tie. Maybe Numbskull was able to edge him out, but we'll have to see what the judges think. That is a close 3-way finish. That almost reminds me of that finish in the movie Cars. But Numbskull is granted the win. I honestly could have seen it going either way, but Numbskull was given the victory, with Killer Kowalski grabbing second. But now for race number 3. This is where things will become a lot more set in stone. Numbskull and Killer starting out in the same lane, which seems to have helped both of them, as now they have the top 2 spots in this race so far. But with Numbskull trying to pass Killer Kowalski, he lost some momentum, allowing Uncle Elvis to catch up to him. Meanwhile, Killer went sideways for a little bit, and now it's a 3-way race for first yet again. But Uncle Elvis, I think that was, slowed down, causing him to finish in 3rd. He was able to stop Mr. Dark from passing him, but not before his back end was lifted into the air for a moment. But now Killer Kowalski grabbed a first place finish, denying Numbskull a sweep. Remember, no one is undefeated in this tournament. We've gotten a small handful of sweeps here and there, but no one won every single race leading up to the grand finals. And going around the first turn, Numbskull is looking to find a way around Killer Kowalski, as they have been so far. And they've actually been able to catch up, but going around them has been a bit of a challenge, especially considering the length of Killer Kowalski's vehicle. But Numbskull is trying to find his way around him, but Killer Kowalski was having none of that. So it looks like Numbskull and Killer Kowalski will be the ones moving on, tied for points. Uncle Elvis and Mr. Dark, unfortunately, their journey ends here. A valiant effort by them, and they should pat themselves on the back for making it this far. And I think Mr. Dark even did have the fastest time at one point before it was taken away. And now for the second group, which has Puff from Puff's Racing. Crickster Sr. from Hot Nuts is here again. The Copper Comet, it seems, is their nickname. And Flip Gambino from Flip's Racing. Alongside Boomershine from Team Boomershine. Boomershine, I believe, also had the fastest time at one point. And now I'm sure they would love to take it back. And they will start out in the front alongside Puff. And look at this, Boomershine is already holding on to a lead, while also being pushed forward by Flip Gambino, who is now trying to find his way around Boomershine, but in the process allows, that looks like Puff, to catch up to the both of them. But now Boomershine and Flip Gambino are pulling away yet again. Flip is trying to navigate around Boomershine, but Boomershine keeps cutting him off at every pass except for here, and Flip Gambino grabs the win. Boomershine will remain in second, at least for now. And I don't think anybody has been able to get the fastest time yet in the grand finals, which is currently being held by, I believe it's RAF and Dusty Miles, who have both finished with a 13.9. Which Dusty Miles did all the way back in, I believe, it was day 4. But now here we go into race number 2. Flip Gambino now has the lead, and Boomershine looks like he's in second. But Craigster Sr., I believe, managed to grab the inside lane, allowing him to grab second, and now he is the one trying to find his way around Flip. But Boomershine is trying to pass him up so he can catch up to Flip Gambino and take revenge. So far, unable to do that, as Flip Gambino gets another win and Boomershine finishes in third this time around. This was the kind of thing that Craigster Sr. needed in order to stay in this tournament. But they might have to fight a little bit harder, as they're only at 4 points. But Boomershine does have 5, and Puff, despite only having 3 points. Puff has 3, Craigster has 4, Boomershine has 5, but Flip Gambino has twice that with 10. And now they're currently in first, but here comes Boomershine coming out of nowhere, taking the inside lane along with the lead. And now they are trying to get a first place finish. This would greatly help them in their chances to move on in this tournament. But here comes Flip Gambino again, trying to catch him before they cross the finish line. But Boomershine does grab that win. So Boomershine will finish in first that time around. Flip Gambino in second, Craigster in third. But Puff, as pointed out, will not finish, while remaining upside down no less. We've had quite a few of those, especially in the last part of the race before the Grand Finals, in day number 8. A lot of non-finishes happened there. But now here we go. 2 of these racers will also progress, and we'll move on to the Ultimate Finals. Right now it is actually Craigster Sr. out in front, and Boomershine is in the back, being blocked off by Puff. Will this make or break somebody's chances, or is it already sealed? Craigster Sr. is doing a phenomenal job keeping Flip Gambino from passing him, even spun around and managed to do it with his back end. Boomershine managed to grab third place. I think that'll keep him in this tournament going into the Ultimate Finals. Yeah, anyone who advanced in this video will move on to the Ultimate Finals, which will be Flip Gambino and Boomershine, along with Numbskull and Killer Kowalski. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first half of the Grand Finals has passed, and now it is time for the second half. Without any further ado, let's get right into the first group for today. We have Arlo again from Arlo Racing. We have Chewy Mandingo from Mandingo Motorsports. We have Champagne Poppy from Blue Line Racing. And Sneaky Bob from Vapor Racing. Now remember, up to this point, Champagne Poppy is a racer from Blue Line Racing who is currently the defending champion in these tournaments. So will they be able to uphold that, or will they be dethroned? Currently it is Sneaky Bob out in the lead, with Champagne Poppy in second, but the others are coming up right behind them. They almost cut him off going around the inside, but it was not enough, and now Champagne Poppy is looking to grab first place from Sneaky Bob. And I believe these two were in an earlier part of the tournament, and now they're back racing together again. I could very well be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. But Sneaky Bob does grab the first win, almost breaking the 14-second mark. Finishing with a 14.01. Currently, the fastest time still is 13.9, which was set by Dusty Miles and then done again by the Races and Fun racer. But now here we go into race number 2. Sneaky Bob and Champagne Poppy are starting out in the front half. But Champagne Poppy is being pushed forward by Chewy. And now those two have the top 2 spots. And Sneaky Bob is all of a sudden falling behind. It looked like they might have been brushed up against the wall and lost a lot of momentum as a result. But now Chewy is the one fighting for first alongside Champagne. But Champagne has a decent sized lead already, and they are staying straight with a decent amount of speed, and they finish in first And they finished with a 13.98, I think that is. So they were able to go under 14 seconds, but not quite get the fastest time. But that's almost as close as you can get. But now, with a first place finish and Sneaky Bob finishing in third, it is now Champagne Poppy in the lead with points. And now into heat number 3. And remember, the top 2 in both groups that finish today, or rather each racer that finishes in the top 2 in each group will move on to the ultimate finals. There will be no final round, because that will be done in the next video. But now it is Sneaky Bob back in contention with Champagne Poppy. And right now Champagne Poppy is the one in front between the two. Sneaky Bob trying to literally sneak his way up there, but did not have enough time to do so. Meanwhile, Chewy finishes in third and Arlo in fourth. It's looking pretty good for Champagne Poppy and Sneaky Bob now. We'll have to see how this last race goes. Even in the grand finals, we've seen some crazy things happen. And the day before that certainly was insane. And now with one race left, Sneaky Bob has 10 points. Champagne Poppy has 13. Chewy Mandingo has 7. And Arlo only has 3. So Chewy Mandingo definitely does still have a shot, but they need a miracle here. And speaking of which, Arlo is actually the one out in front, blocking Champagne Poppy from finishing in first. Chewy Mandingo finished in third, but I don't think it's gonna be enough, even though Sneaky Bob finished behind them. But Arlo figured if they were gonna go out, they might as well go out with a bang, and that is exactly what they did. Champagne Poppy and Sneaky Bob will be moving on to the ultimate finals. And now for the second group, we have Sam Hall from the team I'll pronounce in a second, RAF from Races and Fun, RoboCop from Neighborhood Watch, and finally, we have Dusty Miles from Milestone Diecast Racing. This is quite the group right now. RoboCop was in a group where he was the only person to finish in day 8. Sam Hall is one of the few people who managed to get a sweep, even though they weren't undefeated. RAF did the same, and RAF and Dusty Miles currently hold the record for the fastest time. But I know Sam Hall had a specific way to pronounce their team name, and I apologize for getting it wrong before. I was told they're sometimes called Dr. Tech, sometimes Dirt Tech, but they have a very specific name because it's an abbreviation. But as we finish this first race, it looks like Sam Hall was able to grab that first win. So they're trying to keep their time in this tournament going. And it is RAF who actually finished in third that time around. But now here we go into race number 2, Dusty Miles. And it looks like RoboCop are fighting for first. And it looks like there's a bit of a train trying to push past Dusty Miles, but that plan did not work. RAF and Sam Hall tried to push RoboCop into Dusty Miles, but now Dusty has a lead, but RAF is closing in behind him. Will it be enough? He is rocketing forward, but Dusty Miles still grabbed the win. Sam Hall, who finished first the first time, finished in third now, while RoboCop finishes in fourth. Dusty Miles and Sam Hall are currently in the better positions to move on, but anything could still happen. We've seen some people start off strong and then fall apart, and likewise we've seen people who started off not so well but then came back. And right now RAF has that lead. Sam Hall, who's trying to stay in this tournament along with some of these speedsters, is currently in the back of the pack. Actually, no, he's in third at this point, while RAF is all alone out in front. And now they approach the finish line and they take the win. It looked like Sam Hall did stay in third, while RoboCop finished in fourth. Even though it may not be as many points, RoboCop should still applaud the fact that he's able to finish every time right now, which is something that even he wasn't able to do in one of the craziest groups we saw in this tournament. But now only one race remains with this group. Two of them will move on. Two of them will leave this tournament and watch from the sidelines from here on out. Sam Hall currently has 9. RAF has 10. Dusty Miles has 11. RoboCop has 3. It is a fight for the top 2 spots, the last 2 spots in the Ultimate Finals no less. And right now it could look really good for RAF and Sam Hall. Sam Hall is right on the tail of RAF, but does not have what he needs in order to pass him. So he will finish in second. The question is, will it be enough for him to move on, or will he fall just short? We'll have to take a look at the final tally. But even if he doesn't move on, he gave it the fight of his life. He fell just short as Dusty Miles will move on alongside the Races and Fun vehicle. And now your Ultimate Finals of races, and it all comes down to this. Hey everyone, welcome to day 11, the Ultimate Finals of the Mail-In Tournament. This is the last round, and here are the remaining 8 racers throughout this entire tournament. Let's see which 4 will race first. We have Killa Kowalski from FPD Racing. We have Champagne Poppy from Blue Line Racing, the current defending champion. Numbskull from Team Numbskull. And the last one in this group will be RAF from the Races and Fun channel themselves. These 4 have all worked hard to get to this point, but 2 of them will stop their journey here. And 2 of them will move on to the final round. And so far, starting off in front, it is RAF and Champagne Poppy. Champagne Poppy is able to edge RAF out, going around the turn. Killa Kowalski is right behind both of them, and the Numbskull is not too far behind either. This is about as close as you can get with 4 racers, as usually 1 or 2 fall quickly behind. But all 4 are staying relatively close together. Champagne Poppy manages to grab the first win. Killa almost grabbed second, but RAF managed to keep it. And Champagne Poppy finished with a 14.26. Up to this point, RAF and Dusty Miles are tied for the fastest time with 13.9. Let's see if anybody can beat that before this tournament ends. But now, Champagne Poppy is pushing RAF forward at the beginning of this second race. Killa Kowalski is trying to do the same for Numbskull, but did not do so as effectively. And Champagne Poppy actually moved out of the way of the other racers and is now in the back. The defending champion is currently in 4th. They've got to make something happen to make up some ground, and it looks like they're starting to do it. But RAF is looking at them as they go backwards towards the finish line. But Numbskull managed to grab second, Killa in third once more. But Champagne Poppy finishes in 4th. If anything's going to save them right now, it's that first place finish they had in the first round. Because they are still in second in overall points. But they can't have things like that happen again, otherwise they will be knocked out of this tournament, which would be a shock to many fans out there. But now Champagne Poppy is pushing Killa Kowalski forward. And now Killa has the lead. Champagne Poppy is right beside Numbskull, both of which are blocking RAF from passing them. And it looks like they're doing it again. And now going around that turn, RAF, I think, spun around a little bit. But Killa Kowalski is taking full advantage of all the commotion behind him and taking a win for himself. While Champagne Poppy finishes in second, RAF in third, and Numbskull gets as close, basically, as you can get to the finish line without actually crossing it. A non-finish in the Ultimate Finals is extremely dangerous. but the fact that they made it to the Ultimate Finals at all is something to applaud. But now we only have one race remaining. 2 of them will move on to the last round, and 2 of them will fall just short of it. Currently, Champagne Poppy has 9. Killer Kowalski also has 9. Numbskull only has 4, while RAF has 10. It is basically a 3-way spot, a 3-way fight rather, for the 2 spots in the last round, and Killer Kowalski may have just lost his opportunity as he goes sideways on the track. While Champagne Poppy and RAF are fighting for first place in this race, and RAF managed to grab it at the last moment, but I believe these 2 will move on as Numbskull finishes in 3rd, and Killer Kowalski likely will not move on with a DNF. That is not the way you want to go out. Even if you don't move on, you don't want to end your journey like that. But that's exactly what happened, as Champagne Poppy is now moving on alongside RAF. And now for the second group. Sneaky Bob from Vapor Racing. Boomershine from Team Boomershine, thanks to Don Boomershine. Flip Gambino from Flips Racing. And Dusty Miles from Milestone Diecast Racing. These 4 have all shown great demonstrations of speed, and Dusty Miles, remember, is also tied for the fastest time, at least recorded. We have had some races where the timer didn't seem to be working, but in terms of recorded times, Dusty Miles is tied for the fastest time. And they are currently in the lead as the other 3 are pushing up against each other back there. But Dusty Miles is trying to find any opportunity to stay in front, and that's exactly what they did. And they take the first win along with a new fastest time. They were up to this point holding on to it alongside RAF, but now they are the sole holder of the fastest time once again with a 13.76. And there won't be many opportunities after this to beat that time, so it's likely that Dusty Miles, even if they aren't the champion of this tournament, they will likely hold on to the fastest time title. But now they are staying in second currently as Flip Gambino takes the lead, while Boomershine and Sneaky Bob fight for 3rd place. Dusty Miles is looking for an open window to pass Flip Gambino, and it looks like he's got it. And he goes around the turn with the lead, shaking up Flip Gambino for a moment. And Dusty Miles takes another win, finishing under 14 seconds once more, while Sneaky Bob ends up on his back. It looks like they stuck too much to the outside, and that incline caused them to flip over. Again, a DNF rather, in the Ultimate Finals is extremely dangerous. That could spell the end of Sneaky Bob's time in this tournament, but we will have to see. We've seen bigger surprises before. But Dusty Miles is once again trailing behind Flip Gambino, and the other 2 are actually catching up to him now. Flip Gambino is trying to stop Dusty Miles from a sweep, trying to deny him a guarantee to move on like this, even though his chances are pretty much set in stone right now. And he finishes in 2nd this time. And we have a new fastest time. For the longest time, ever since day 4, Dusty Miles held on to the title for the fastest time, but it's now been taken away, even though he just broke his own time, and now it's held by Flip Gambino with a 13.66. Just goes to show that anything can happen at any time. But now we have one more race among this group. The odds are in the extreme favor of Dusty Miles and Flip Gambino right now. But Dusty Miles is currently in 4th as he looks for a way around Sneaky Bob. He is now finding his way around Boomershine, and now he's back fighting for 1st with Flip Gambino. I don't think he'll have enough to get him. He doesn't. But the fact that he made up so much ground in so little time is absolutely incredible. But I believe Flip and Dusty will be the ones to move on. And they will! Great effort by Boomershine and Sneaky Bob, though. But now this is it. The final round in the entire tournament. 3 of these racers have held or currently hold the fastest time at one point, while Champagne Poppy, the remaining one, is your defending champion. This is about as good a group as you can get, given their current status up to this point. Champagne Poppy currently has the lead. They're trying to hold on to their champion title. Flip Gambino is making it difficult for them as they run into the back of them. But Champagne Poppy has none of that, and he takes the first win. He finishes with a 13.89. All of a sudden, everyone is finishing under 13.9. With all these fast racers now, it is gonna be interesting. Champagne Poppy takes the first win. 2 more and they will be guaranteed victory. Into race number 2, Champagne Poppy is starting out in front alongside Dusty Miles. And Dusty Miles does have the inside, but Flip Gambino is not making it easy for them. And now all 4 are staying relatively close together. Champagne Poppy does a nose block to keep everyone from passing him, but he does have the outside lane. Despite that, however, he holds onto that lead somehow, while the other 3 lose some of that momentum. And Champagne Poppy is 1 win away from being your champion for this tournament and holding on to his title. But I'm sure the other 3 will make it a challenge for him. I should also be more specific. Champagne Poppy represents Blue Line Racing, and Blue Line Racing currently is your defending champion. So if Champagne Poppy does well, that title will still be upheld. But they are currently starting in the back. They do manage to pass Flip Gambino, who is now in 4th, surprisingly. But now they have some work to do. They are pushed forward by Flip Gambino, and they almost pass up Dusty Miles. It is quite the traffic jam going towards the finish line. I am not sure who's going to take it. It looks like RAF managed to grab the win, but I think Champagne Poppy might have managed to grab 2nd. These are the kind of races we come here to see. Champagne Poppy does have 2nd, so he currently still has the lead in overall points, and doing well here could mean continuation of holding on to the championship name. They are starting off in 2nd, it looks like, pushing Flip Gambino forward. I guess kind of thanking him for the push forward that he got in the last race. But now Champagne Poppy is blocking the other 2. Flip Gambino is all alone. I guess Champagne Poppy's strategy right now is to stop anyone from passing him as best he can, even if only one of them is still in front of him. But Flip Gambino finishes in 1st. Here comes Champagne Poppy in 2nd. I think that's going to be enough. RAF in 3rd. And here comes Flip Gambino. But he stops sideways in the last race of the tournament, doing a DNF. Or is that Dusty Miles, actually? If Flip Gambino finished in 1st, what am I talking about? I guess they looked quite similar from certain angles. But it is Flip Gambino who took the win. Dusty Miles had the DNF. And Champagne Poppy continues to be your champion. They are the defending champion once more.